Hey everybody. Today I decided to do a vlog on my own personal experience in dealing with the topic of molestation, rape, and sexual harassment, and what kind of effects it had upon my well-being and my overall outlook on life. Um, Comparing that type of process up to now, where the healing, is more in place, more stable, where I'm able to talk about it in a way that feels comfortable for me. As well, along with that, I can go ahead and give a little bit of some insight, spiritually, what occurs when things like that happen, as well as provide some kind of little bit of a background of where I went and sought some healing. There's certain healing methods that are out there for people, who deal with trauma pertaining to any type of situation, whether it be, domestic violence, abuse, rape, abandonment, just the whole nine of issues that go on every day within people's lives. So yeah, and mental health is very important to me. And I usually speak from my own experiences. um and some things I don't really get to share as much with people, because I think a lot of times people wonder, how is it that I come to understand a lot of these things? Do I read up on it? Yeah, some things I do because it pertains to my own health and well-being, and my position in responsibly learning about my experience and what I'd gone through and learning how to deal with it, learning how to heal from it. So yeah, there's that plays into it. Going through and just trying to find different ways of managing my emotions, my spiritual well-being, my physical, health within it, my whole entire mind state. So yeah, I really don't mind, sharing a little bit with everybody today. I know it's going to be a lot to cover, but I'll do my best. And if need be, I can make a part two, if there's anything that I missed or, would like to elaborate on a little bit. You know, um, Things like this take time. We can't just cram everything all into one. Sometimes we have to take our time with our healing process and how much we're able to express out there, that we're comfortable with. Um, but yeah, I'm finally able to speak on these things without crying. That tells me that I've come a long way in healing. Um, and also, not hiding it, not hiding it from people and individuals, because there was some reserve that I had, at the time when I first went through it. Um, but yeah, it all began like probably when I was around 7 years old, or maybe younger, a little bit younger. Um, I was My mom and dad weren't around as much. They were always working. My dad was also a musician. My mom worked a lot, at a place where she took care of people. So the around the hour care work, within that medical field, they were always busy, busy trying to provide for us, our family. So they usually entrusted other people to take care of me, family members and friends, Um, so it's kind of like a community raised me, brought me up. Um, but yeah, there's people, who um, their own kids. They used to come around, and you know, uh, we all used to play and hang out. Sometimes, the older kids too. They used to, like, their older brothers and sisters or cousins or whoever. They used to sometimes pick on us. Just bully us a little bit. Um, Back then I didn't really understand certain things. I wasn't really taught certain stuff about your own personal space. Um and in school they usually teach you about good touch and bad touch. That's where I learned it the first time, and that's when I came out with it, and expressed it to my parents what was really going on. Because I think it probably was occurring within the school where children were being affected in certain ways, their behaviors. So it was something that they did at school. I remember that our teacher was talking to us about it. And that's when I knew that what was being done to me, it wasn't right. And it went against my own personal safety and well-being. So I learned about that at school. And I just want to say real quick, it's very important for parents to constantly express this to their children, the difference between good touch and bad touch. It shouldn't take for them to have to learn it at school in order, for them to realize that that's not a good thing. We should always constantly help our children be aware. It's sad because children should not have to grow up in a world like that, but this is the reality of it. And there are people in this world who have issues within themselves, and usually they find that the people who do molest children are usually victims of molestation themselves because they grew up in that environment, because it's a learned type of behavior. It's learned usually at very young ages, or something influences a person to do that to another. So yeah, and that was what occurred within my life around, yeah, almost about I was almost 7 years old. And it was taking place among peers, people around me, young people, either they're my age or in their teens. I was also sexually harassed a lot, you know um and everything. When I was growing up, I was bullied, because I was from a you know different tribal makeup. I'm a mix of different native tribes. So usually I got picked on quite a lot, for being a little different, looking a little different. So I was always kind of like a target, for things, to occur. And so I ended up in situations like that, where the teen brothers and sisters or whatever of the kids I knew, they would pick on me and stuff, and sometimes they pick on my other friends as well, and my other cousins and whatnot. And it was kind of what happened to all of us, all at the same time. Growing up in that type of, I guess, an environment, that was kind of kept secret, among the teenagers and other children that were doing these things, because they treated it like we were playing a game, and then like I didn't understand what this was, what they were doing to me. I just knew that it didn't feel right. It felt strange. So I was told not to tell, until like the teacher went and came out and had this little thing in school and told us that we should always tell, if anybody's tries to do things to us and touch us in the wrong way, we should always tell our parents. And that's when I came through and I told my mom and dad about it, yeah, so that was like my first experience, being that young. And it went on continuously, for several years. And I moved, from that community onto another community. And that's when, it's like another form of it took place, but it wasn't molestation. It was more of like sexual harassment. When I went to another, tribal reservation, and I got bullied there too because of, being different. Um, the young boys and girls would, slap me, and hit me and pull my hair and touch me inappropriately, on the bus on a regular basis. So that was something that, also, I guess, started bringing about all these like issues with myself, like the I guess perspectives, of how I appear to people, kind of seen as like a kind of like a punching bag, or you know an object, something that was meaningless, that did not matter, that you know my own personal space and boundaries was not respected as a human being. So I never felt safe from the beginning. I was always in this constant cycle of having to defend myself, or having to, I guess, just put up with it, because there was no way for me to really fix the situation. Because even like telling on people, it made it worse. You know, so usually some stuff I just kept to myself, and it's a lot when you have all of that bottled up inside of you, and then that kind of not having a way of getting that out and expressing that, it kind of started to kick certain types of behaviors and thought processes into my being, and spiritual turmoil, because like I felt devalued by it. And sometimes I kept thinking too much about it, what happened to me, and it caused a lot of depression. And around that time, there was people around, my environment who came and gone, constantly. And I was young, and they used to give me drugs, and alcohol when I was little. So like I started drinking and getting involved in stuff like when I was about maybe 12, maybe a little bit 11, maybe 12, 13. Um, and so, yeah, like, that's around the first time I started doing drugs when I was 12 years old. Um, and that was used as like a coping type of mechanism, because it was given to me by an adult who kind of seen what, was going on within myself. And they were the influencer, you know, um, they were people who were close to the family. And they're like, it seems like you're going through a lot, so here, take this. This will help you. And that's how I got, pulled into doing drugs. Through an adult giving that to me, and I guess it just kind of spiraled out from there. Um, then by the time I was like, yeah, I got a little bit older. I started trying to make some changes, because like um I was going through other issues in life, uh dealing with things going on at school, a lot of the consistent, negative types of things going on with other people, placing problems on me, or making me feel like, I was an issue or a burden, or, something of that nature, or something was wrong with me. Um, so that was the only way I knew how to like deal with certain things, and trying to get people to understand me, that felt like it was out of the question, because like it was difficult, really difficult, trying to find understanding without being judged, because a lot of times, I know in, our own tribal culture, there's a lot of judgment that goes on sometimes, um due to either traditional beliefs or, just a lot of things that come with that, like, regular society, but it's like, you're in a smaller community. So, if your own people, and, word gets out fast about what you go through and what happens. And, so it's like, it gets to the point to where you're afraid of, telling anybody anything. Um, so you just are pretty much always on guard, have trouble with trusting people. Um, and so, yeah, all that with no place to go. I wasn't in counseling at that time, and I didn't understand that I had other mental disorders as well. That I had complex PTSD, or I had other issues going on with me, disorders. I didn't know that at the time. I was just young, still a teenager. Um, so when you're a teenager, you have all those things hitting at you from every angle. It feels like the whole world is gonna end. It always feels like that for a young individual. And I pretty much self medicated through alcohol, mostly. It got worse when I turned 21, so I was able to buy my own liquor. And that was kind of like the lifestyle that I grew up in most of the time, because, like, coming from a family of musicians, entertainers, they're always out there. You're always in that environment of seeing, people, buy them drinks, people partying, having a good time. I was, a part of that as well. Being a musician myself, and um, yeah, I used to go out here and there to bars, and um, hang out with all kind of people, and we just have a good time. And that's really all where it was. And I felt like, that was a part of my happiness, because music is a part of my happiness, my true happiness, and it was thrown into the mix of that, with the alcohol and everything. So, but the alcohol became a lot. It started to become a bit of a crutch for me. Whenever I was overthinking, going through PTSD triggers, I turned to that to just get drunk, forget about it. But it didn't matter. Even if I tried, it was still there when I woke up the next day. Still the same issues, still the same cycles. So but yeah, one night, um, I was 28 years old, and it was around New Year's Eve. I ended up going out and partying, drinking, having fun with friends and family, at a local bar. And then, yeah, after, usually everybody's like, okay, what are we gonna do next? Everybody wanted to go to another place. But, my friend and I, we were just trying to keep safe. So we didn't want to drink, well, drive. And, well, we were drunk. So there was a guy there who was sober. He wasn't drinking. And he said, well, hey, you know what? We can go to my place and then we can park. We knew this person very well. Well, not deeply, but I knew him because I went to school with him. Um, and yeah, he was sober. So he drove us to his place, and he said, we could just hang out there, and then in the morning we can leave. That way we don't have to drive anywhere drunk. So that's what, kind of established this little sense of trust that I had, in the situation. But all of that changed. You know, I I got really wasted that night, and I ended up feeling very tired. I fell asleep on the couch, and then they said, "Oh, why don't you go to another room? Go sleep in the back room, and we'll be in here." So I was like, "Okay." So I went in the back room, fell asleep, and then I remember being awakened, by the guy. He was trying to come on to me, and then I told him no. I was really out of it. I just remember things in flashes of what happened. Um, I just remember being really out of it, and I told him no. Um, and then I went back to sleep, and then he left. I could kind of hear them in the other room. They were just talking and laughing and doing other stuff. So, um, yeah, I just ended up falling asleep, and he ended up coming back, and that's when it happened. And I guess the thing about it, I couldn't talk about this for a long time without crying. Um, because there was a lot of things I felt from that, at the time. You go through an experience like that, you start feeling like a sense of guilt, like, oh damn it, I should have went home. I should have listened to my intuition, my gut instinct that I shouldn't have been here. You start blaming yourself. You start feeling embarrassed, like, how could I let this happen to me? Especially for myself, being that, I already had been in situations where I felt unsafe, and it was my job to protect my own self, and I was in a very vulnerable state. And that's something that I could not see. For some reason, I just could not see that. It took a person, me telling a person about this, it took them to snap something into my mind that kind of shut it off, the some of the thoughts off of blame, because I was told, like, what this guy did to you was wrong. Doesn't matter if you were drunk, high off your ass, doesn't matter. You said no. This person did not respect that, and they still did what they did. That is rape. It is not your fault. So that is the thing that, I had to come to terms with, like, trying to remove the guilt, or feeling like, if only I could have went back and changed things. If only I could have just said, okay, I'm gonna call a cab and just go home. I don't mind waiting a whole hour for a cab to get here, as long as I get home. You know. Um so I try to keep replaying that in my head, and figure out a better way. But the damage was done. And at that time, I was 28, and I was saving myself for somebody. I still, regardless of me going out and drinking, and just having these learning lessons throughout life, regardless of it, I still had hopes for myself. I still wanted a husband. I still wanted children. I still wanted to save myself for somebody I really love, because I felt that I deserved to have that experience done in a way that was more respectful, where it was on my own terms, where I gave the permission myself, but that was taken away from me. And so that, I guess that really did hurt, spiritually, because it's like you lose a part of yourself. You reserve a part of yourself in a spiritual sense. I still, regardless of, what was done to me in the past, being molested, I still had a part of myself that was not taken away. And that was my purity, my innocence, because in my culture, we believe, you keep yourself pure, because when you exchange energy with other people, a part of their energy becomes a part of you. And this is a thing that people do not understand, why it's really hard for victims of rape or molestation to move on from that, is because when it happens, there's an exchange of the internal turmoil that person has, who has the idea of violating you. It goes into your own spiritual being as well. So this is the thing that I was really disturbed by, on and off. It was strange. It's kind of like, I could still feel his presence there, you know. Even like almost felt like I was going crazy. Like I could feel or think his thoughts, like what he thought about all of that. And myself too, like at the time I didn't know I was an intuitive as well. So that also plays a bit of a role into it, how I was affected spiritually. It felt like what people call in um within the spiritual community, psychic attack. It's like you feel every sense of a person's being, and it's like it becomes a part of you, you know. And it was very disturbing, because the person who did that to me was a disturbing individual. They're very disturbed by certain things. That's why, they did these types of things. And I learned later on that I wasn't the only one. Learned that he'd done this to other women who were in a very vulnerable state. And so, yeah, it was just like man, it did a big number on me to where like it really damaged my trust in men. The way how I seen them, also my outlook on life, things I hoped for, I no longer hoped for it because I felt like I was worth less. Because I wasn't protecting myself enough, regardless of what I could have tried to do and go back and do over. It's never gonna be enough. You know. So yeah, it changed the way how how I feel when other men approach me today. They could be very sweet, good, respectful, loving, decent men, but at the same time, like I noticed that I was really like hyper vigilant around them, hypersensitive around them. Just kind of, I developed those behaviors of trying to always protect myself. So there was always a wall I built up, but it came to the point to where like that wall was too high. That wall was just more like causing damage to my own self than creating healing for me. Because what took place was isolation behind that wall, and I was there by myself dealing with all of this. I was dealing with it until a friend came along and helped me. He helped me kind of like by kind of altering my perception of things, of myself, of men, of certain outcomes to things, because I was always expecting the worst, so just based on my experiences that had built up in me. So that kind of overrode the PTSD triggers, the CPTSD triggers, because it replaced those memories with a new memory, of something that was more productive for me, that I can help move on from the situation, you know. But later on, though, I still ended up going and getting some Reiki work done on me, because I learned that, when people go through certain types of trauma in life, it records. I think I might have mentioned this before in another video, that it records cell memory into the organs, your mind, whatever part of your body that was inflicted with the pain, with the trauma, it all records within the fibers of your being. And so it's like there's damaged tissue within you. And sometimes this later on can lead down to certain physical ailments or health deficiencies or defects, later on, if those aren't cleared out. That's something that I learned spiritually, and through, this woman. She's incredible, amazing person. She's very, very sweet, loving person who understands this. It's her profession. She does work in Reiki. And I had her do some work on me, you know, with the level of the trauma that I've been through, it was suggested that I get more, therapy sessions done, because there's other things besides, those experiences that happened to me. I've been through surgeries, I've been through, certain accidents in life, physical accidents, injuries. So there's still some things that, it takes time for it to be all, cleared out of your whole physical system. But there are people who have, certain abilities who can help with that. Me being native, I also know that within my culture, there's, medicine men and women who do practice that as well. Um, the healing work of the auric fields within the body, because our body has, the spiritual senses, in every way. Our heart, you guys know them as the chakras, the heart, the throat, the intuition, the universal, crown, where all your intuition comes from, from divine. Um, you have your sacral, your uh, solar plexus, and your root. All those spiritual energy points, you have them all in your hands and your feet as well, throughout your whole entire system. And she really does understand all this, her work, very well. And um within my culture too, that is, what we know, what we learn, especially those, have healing abilities. They learn about that at a young age. That's why maintaining our body and being aware spiritually of the energy we allow to flow through it, as well as what we put into it, is something that's very important and vital for our full, overall health. So it's like I knew that, if I wanted to heal from these things too, I needed to stop drinking, because that also wasn't contributing to, getting over the PTSD triggers. So I had to stop alcohol, I had to stop doing drugs, I had